if you generate income online, if you generate passive income, if you're into making side hustles be an income source for you, one of the things that you're probably going to have to pay attention to is filing your taxes. Today is April 15th. It's pretty much the last day for people to file taxes. Obviously, having a corporation is a different date, but today's April 15th, so probably by now, most people have probably already filed their taxes for the year. I make this video about once a year, every year, and I kind of talk about how to have a profitable and successful year for the future going on. A lot of people maybe watching this video might be just getting into making money online and not sure where to start. There's a lot of, honestly, BS online around taxes, tax deductions, and there's really a lot of lying and confusion. And unfortunately, when I first started in business, there wasn't that much information online, but the information that I was kind of looking to, because there really wasn't that much, was kind of fraudulent in a way. And the reason why I talk about that is because, you hear videos online of people saying, I use my sports car, my Lamborghini, that cost $250,000 as a tax deduction, things like that. If those people are truly doing things like that, it's either fraudulent or just fake. It's not even happening. The reason why I say that is because there's so much misinformation around it. And what I want to talk about today is how you can get prepared for the future for all the people that maybe didn't make any money this year. And, next year comes around you got a whole 365 days till the next April 15th. And you want to file your taxes the right way. You want to make money. So let me kind of share with you guys how to actually file, how to save as much money as possible, and what to do. So the first thing that you're going to need is to understand the concept of a Schedule C sole proprietorship kind of concept, right? And then you want to see what a Section 179 is. I'll kind of explain what this is. In your business, right, you guys are watching me, you guys have expenses, right? For example, you pay for a software, you pay for a course, you pay for books, you pay for materials, you pay for a computer, a mouse, a camera, things like that. You're paying for these things not necessarily for your enjoyment, but for the business use, for your business to be successful. A lot of cases, I wouldn't buy the stuff that I'm buying had it not been for my business. So for example, I don't need to have, a printer, a sublimation printer, if it wasn't for my business. I wouldn't need to have a laptop of a certain kind of quality or grade if it wasn't for my business. I don't have really any personal use on my laptop. I have my phone for that, right? That's kind of what I mean. There are certain business expenses. So where do we take things from here? Well, the government has put in place ways that we can deduct our costs. Because taxes is so high here in the United States, there's ways that we can help reduce our taxes slightly. Not too much, but slightly. And what are those things? Well, it depends the structure of your business. Some people do not have a set up corporation. They don't have an S Corp or a C Corp, but they have an LLC or a sole proprietorship. We talked about this before. I'll leave a link in the description about a video on how to get the best LLC and really where to get it for the cheapest, because the best is just equal to the cheapest. It's really that simple. It depends what state you live in, obviously, but I have a video that I created a while back. I'll just leave the link in the description showing you guys how to pay for the state fee only when you create your LLC and not have to worry about extra fees that the company puts on. But the point is if you create an LLC, the real benefit for an LLC is legal protection. That's the main purpose. You're still operating as a sole proprietorship if you're a single individual in that business. So for example, let's say you post some images on Adobe Stock, you sell some ebooks, you create some, online products on Etsy, for example, you make some money here and there. You don't have any partners. That's a perfect example of a sole proprietorship. You don't have any partners and you have an LLC, or you don't have an LLC. The purpose for the LLC, like I said, is not necessarily a tax deduction, but it's for a sole proprietorship. That's the main purpose. Not sole proprietorship. The main purpose is legal liability protection. That's really what it's for, okay? So when you create an LLC, it's very important, obviously, for that legal protection. You are considered a sole proprietorship, whether you have it or not. You have something called a Schedule C. This tax document here is what you can fill out to get these tax deductions and reductions, right? And so let me give you a quick example. Imagine you have a car, okay? It's your used car. You know, you didn't buy it for business, but you use it for multi-purpose. And you drive 10 miles to a certain location so you could take pictures. And with those pictures, you take those pictures, you post them on your account on Adobe Stock, for example, right? In an effort to make money. Well, what was your cost there? Let's just assume that you drove those 10 miles purely just for business. Well, each mile, you get to take a deduction on that mile. I forgot exactly what it is, maybe 65 cents or 80-something cents. I don't remember the exact number, but you get to take a deduction per mile, right? If you pay for ads on something, like let's say you create a website and a product and you pay for ads on that product. Let's say you're doing drop shipping. Let's say you're doing print-on-demand e-commerce. So many different things, but let's say you're paying for advertising. That's also a tax deduction. It's an expense, right? These expenses get deducted amongst your total income, so it lowers that tax bill. So let's say, for example, you make $100,000 online and you spend $15,000 worth of expenses. You're not going to be taxed on $100K anymore. You're going to be taxed on $100K minus $15K, for example, if that's the number. And you're sitting around $85K that you're going to be taxed at. So that's kind of the benefit here, guys, of the Schedule C. Now, beyond the Schedule C, there's things that you could pay for that are considered assets, okay? What are assets? Assets are things that you can depreciate and amortize over time, or you can take a full 100% deduction. Now, the reason why I know my stuff on this is because I really wanted to dive deep. My uncle is an accountant. I didn't want to have to keep asking him for questions year after year after year. It got really annoying because obviously he's busy. And on top of that, I'm the type of person where I'm very controlling. I want to know everything about what I'm doing. So the form for a Section 179 is Form 4562. You watch a lot of videos about car deductions, right? I used to search these all the time. I wanted to figure out if I can get a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something like that as a tax deduction. I wanted to really, really do that. And I found that 99% of the ways that people do it online are completely fraudulent. They'll make videos saying, oh, if I make a video with this Ferrari or this Lamborghini, then I get a tax deduction. That's not the case at all, right? What happens is the IRS has a code that states if the expense is ordinary and necessary, okay? Now, if I am running an ad, let's say, okay, and I decide to buy a Lamborghini to put it in my ad to become more successful, and I'm talking about buy a Lamborghini. I'm not talking about lease one for a day or two, meaning rent. I'm talking about purchase, right? If I purchase a Lamborghini, $290,000, let's say, that is not an ordinary and necessary expense. That's actually pretty extravagant of an expense. But let's say I get that Lamborghini as a rental just for 2 hours to create an ad with the Lamborghini. In that case, that is an ordinary expense, right? I'm not keeping the Lamborghini for my own pleasure. I'm using it purely just for the business. That's an ordinary expense. So there are certain things that I can purchase, not in, let's just say, in the world that we live in, guys, where we post, products on Etsy and we post pictures on Adobe Stock and we write ebooks and we sell print-on-demand stuff. Unfortunately, we really can't take the vehicle deductions for Section 179. When you search Section 179 on YouTube, you're going to see everything about related to cars, how you can get a G-Wagon for free, how you can get this car for free, that car for free. The truth is it has to directly relate to your business in order for you to actually take the deduction. Let's say, for example, I have a bakery and I have to deliver these cakes, right, to my clients. If I buy, let's say, a 6,000-pound Ford Transit, right, that is technically an ordinary and necessary expense. That is something that is purely logical that I can take as a deduction. Now, the IRS has rules on vehicles as to what weight limit, right, for these vehicles and the amount of money that you can deduct per vehicle. But for other products like printers, computer software, things that are considered assets, right, for your business, you can deduct those 100%. I think the figure is up to 2.1 million or 1.9. I can't remember what the exact expense is. As long as it's not considered heavy machinery or anything like that, you can deduct those things. So, for example, this year I brought a brand new sublimation printer. and it came with a whole bunch of stuff, but the printer was like about $2,500. Guess what? That's a deduction that I'm going to be able to take 100% full deduction on. I have a choice within Section 179, which is Form 4562, to either choose to take a amortized, depreciated deduction over time, right? Like 20% every year, for example, or I could take the 100% upfront. Now, here's the thing, guys. There's, once again, a lot of BS online about what you can take as a deduction and what you can't, right? I dreamed about buying, like, for example, a McLaren or a Lamborghini completely tax-free as a deduction, but unfortunately, that's not the case. The only real business where I think you could do that without any problems is probably in the exotic rental car business. Like, if you have an exotic rental car business, well, then it would make sense to own a Ferrari, Lamborghini, and all these kind of things, right? Because you want people to lease them out, and, that just makes sense. But a lot of other business, it doesn't make sense. So it's hard to really, you have to be able to prove fully that the business expense is ordinary and necessary. So why am I talking about this? Well, in our business, guys, there's a lot of expenses that we have, some that are permanent and some that are a month-to-month basis. So you buy, for example, a Midjourney subscription. That's a tax deduction. You buy a course. That's a tax deduction. Whether it be on Schedule C or Form 4562, it doesn't really matter, for the sake of this video. Obviously, it matters when you're doing your taxes. But for the sake of this video, the whole point here is that you get to take these deductions. Now, in order for all of this to come to fruition and be legitimate, your finances have to be separate, which is why we talked about creating a business bank account. I've been talking about this year after year after year because I really want people to make sure they get this right. Now, I don't flood my channel with a bunch of these kind of videos. These are just kind of instructional-based videos. And what you want to do is you want to have what's called no intermingling of funds. You cannot intermingle your funds. What does that actually mean? If you make, let's say, $50,000 in business and $20,000 is expenses, right? Those expenses should come from your business bank account, and those business bank account-based expenses should be separate in that account and should not be intermingled with your other expenses. So, for example, your grocery store expenses that has nothing to do with your business should not be related or involved with those kind of other expenses that you have. They should be separate. Everything should be abundantly clear of essentially what's what. On top of that, and this is a little tip here, is you need to have credit card statements of things that are purchased and also receipts. A lot of people forget that part, but you need receipts to prove what the expense actually is and what it does and things like that. So what is the future for you guys? What is the best thing you can do? I heard Donald Trump say he is interested in making essentially taxes not exist for people who make $150,000 or less. I would wish that for the United States. There would be a lot of people that would help out dramatically, but honestly, I don't think it's realistic. I'm not doubting him. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think there are too many forces that are not going to make that happen. So back to reality, we have to figure out how to take advantage of this tax system at the best way that we can because the government allows us to do so. So what is the game plan? For everybody who's watching, who maybe have done some of this or not done some of this, maybe made money or not made money, you're going to have a separate bank account for your business bank account. I'll leave a link in the description to the video in which you could watch for the best business bank account, and I do go through that, okay? There are certain bank accounts that are better than others. Let's just put it that way. So I'll leave a link in the description to that video. Once you get your business bank account, you need to have a business credit card. And the reason why I say you need to, you really don't need to. I mean, you could spend right out of a debit card or something from the bank account, but there are benefits to having credit cards, cash back, things like that. If you have no problem with debt, you know how to pay your bills on time, it shouldn't be a problem. I know Dave Ramsey talks about nobody should have a credit card. I personally disagree because I'm able to manage my money and pay my bills on time. I don't see that as a problem. But everybody's kind of different in that regard. But business bank account, your expenses go from there. You get cash back. You get bonuses back. It's great. Okay? Business bank account, business credit card. Okay? What next? Okay? Next, you're going to have to, every single expense you have, put it to the side, document it, say what it is. That's the next thing. The third thing, or the fourth thing in this case, is understand the tax code. Understand what deductions you can take. We actually made a video talking about what these deductions are. And we explain we go through the list kind of explaining what these things are. And you go in, you fill these things out, you do your taxes, and you kind of win on that side. So I don't know if I'm missing anything, but after you understand the tax code, you have your receipts, you have your expenses, you have your income. That's probably it, right? And you're going to have to do this year after year after year. Once again, unless Trump comes in and saves, America from paying it's like 150,000 or less or something like that. I can't remember the exact figure that he said. But hey, if it happens, that would be tremendous for America. It would be a huge win for Trump as well. But hey, I don't think it's going to happen, right? Too good to be true kind of thing for most of America. But listen, I wish the best for all Americans, right? That would be pretty cool. But regardless, guys, today's the last day, right? Today was the last day, effectively, because it's pretty much over. There's 1 hour left to the day, and it's going to be the 16th. So let me know, have you guys involved yourself in this system? Is this new to you? Have you been doing this for years? Have you had challenges? Do you have challenges? What are you trying to do in the future? Are you trying to maximize deductions? What are you trying to do here? So let me know. I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully this video helps in some sort of way. I know a lot of people don't really talk about this in our field online, but it is necessary. It has to be said, all right? I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching, and peace out. Bye.